Hello and welcome to PE and Everything, your PE-based learning hub. Boom. In today's lesson, we'll be learning about the circulatory system. Now, the circulatory system is the way that the blood circulates around the body with the cardiovascular system and the respiratory system, and also with your working muscles. Okay, now it's split up into three different parts. The heart, which we're going to be covering today in this lesson. Blood, which we've already covered in lesson number 2, I believe, which was about the cells, the plasma and the platelets. And then it's also made up of blood vessels, which we have already covered as well with my previous video, which I believe is lesson number 7. Okay? So if you haven't already checked that one out, the link will be down in the description below to check that one out. Okay, so the second fact for you is that during any physical activity, whether it be on the treadmill, walking, high intensity, blood needs to circulate around your body. The process is it delivers oxygen and glucose to the working muscles, and it also removes the carbon dioxide away from them. Now we're going to be looking at this in a bit more detail throughout this video. Okay then, fact number 3 is that the cardiovascular system, it has a double circulatory system, So this means that there are 2 circuits, which we are going to go through in a bit more detail throughout this video. So by the end of it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're going to look at the structure of the heart firstly. Now, it's important that we learn the structure of the heart for many different reasons. It may ask you in an exam to label the structure of the heart, but you've also got to know key terms like stroke volume and what that means. And if you don't know the structure of the heart, you're not going to know what these key words mean. So if you just give me a few seconds with this heart, then we will go on and label it. So the red side, the left side, contains oxygenated blood, and the blue side, the right side, contains deoxygenated blood. The central bit of the heart is called the septum, which separates the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood to stop them from mixing. So we have the Vena Cava, the main vein. This chamber, the first chamber, is the right atrium. This valve is called the tricuspid valve. Then we have the second chamber, which is the right ventricle. This valve doesn't really get a mention, is the right semilunar valve. Then it goes out of the heart via the pulmonary artery. Now on the oxygenated side, it comes back to the heart via the pulmonary vein. First chamber, back to front, remember, left atrium. This valve is called the bicuspid valve. Second chamber is the left ventricle. Again, this doesn't really get a shout out, which is the left semilunar valve. And then it goes and supplies oxygen to the rest of the body via the aorta. Okay, so if we're talking about the 2 circuits that we were talking about, if you remember. So we're splitting up into this half, and we're going to split it up into this half. The deoxygenated side is called the pulmonary circuit. Okay, pulmonary is Latin for lungs. Then on the oxygenated side, it's a systematic circuit, which means to deliver oxygen. But we're going to go into this now in a bit more detail. So firstly, we have the pulmonary circuit, where it starts and then where it ends. Okay, as we know, it delivers deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So the first one is the Vena Cava. This is the main vein that carries deoxygenated blood back to the heart from the body. It goes into the first chamber, which is the right atrium. So this is the heart's first chamber. Then remember, it gets pumped into the second chamber, but it gets filtered via the tricuspid valve. So this is a filtering process of the deoxygenated blood. Okay. The second chamber, which it goes into, is the right ventricle. Now this is the heart's second chamber. It then goes through, if you remember, the right semiluma, but then it goes out via the pulmonary artery. This sends the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. And if you remember in video 1 we were talking about gaseous exchange, this process happens where it gets diffused into the alveoli and then it gets diffused back into the bloodstream, carbon dioxide and oxygen. Now we are moving on to the systematic circuit. Remember, pulmonary circuit means it deals with deoxygenated blood. The systematic means it deals with the oxygenated blood. So the first stage would be the pulmonary vein. Remember, vein meaning carrying blood back to the heart. Pulmonary meaning dealing with the lungs. So the role would be it sends oxygenated blood to the heart from the lungs. Once it's in the heart, it'll go to the first chamber, which is the left atrium. Remember, this is the heart's first chamber. It'll get filtered to the second one via the bicuspid valve. This is a filtering process from the first chamber to the second chamber. Then it'll go into the heart's second chamber, which is the left ventricle. Remember, there's another filtering process from the left semilunar valve, but then it goes on to the main artery, which is the aorta, and this then supplies the whole body with oxygen. Okay, so it goes on then to the body. So we break down this body situation in a bit more detail. So here we have our aorta. Here we have our aorta. And then here we have our bicep. So if we're doing bicep curls, this would be our working muscle. And then it goes on to the heart via the Vena Cava, as we know. So we know that from the aorta it's rich with oxygen, and we need to supply our bicep with oxygen. We need to also remove the carbon dioxide, which will get sent to the heart via the Vena Cava. There's so many tiny small blood vessels that surround the bicep, which we know are called the capillaries. Moving on. From the lungs to the heart to the working muscle, this is the complete circulatory system from the pulmonary circuit to the systematic circuit. This is your chance to understand it, to appreciate it, and to learn it. Just a chance to catch up on some revision now. The amount of blood that gets pumped out of the left ventricle, sometimes both, per heartbeat is known as stroke volume. Moving on to a GCSE style question now. Okay, so here we have the circulatory system, 3 marks, we need to label it. Okay, so figure A, what does it show? Okay, I know it's an artery because it leaves the heart. I know it's a pulmonary side, so figure A shows the pulmonary artery. This carries, we know, deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Have we collected our marks? Tick, tick, tick. That is 3 very easy marks we've just been awarded in our GCSEs, so it's important that we take the time out to learn it. Okay, watch it again, learn it again. Thank you very much for watching the video and taking the time to learn.